Hey everybody, it's Eric the Horror Man here. First, I'd like to apologize for not doing a Top 10 Tuesday for last week. I wasn't really in a good mood last week. So, this is the Top 10 Tuesday that was supposed to happen last Tuesday. So, for my Top 10 Tuesday is Top 10 Favorite Slasher Horror Movies. So, these are the top 10 slasher horror movies that was supposed to be part for the Top 10 Tuesday for last week. So, without further ado, first at number 10 is Prom Night, the original Prom Night, with Jamie Lee Curtis. This movie is a very fun slasher horror movie where you got, after the death of a 10-year-old girl, after she falls out of a window, someone witnesses the murder. Then many years go by, he decides to plan his revenge against the bullies who was responsible for the 10-year-old girl's death. And this is like a whodunit kind of thing, so we don't know who the killer is. But Prom Night is actually a very fun slasher horror movie with Jamie Lee Curtis and Leslie Nielsen. So Prom Night, the original, very fun. Next, at number 8, is the original My Bloody Valentine. And this is actually a very fun, classic slasher horror movie, even though it's a Canadian film. But this movie is actually a lot of fun, where a crazed miner goes around killing off teens that works at a mining company that are trying to hold like a Valentine's Day party. So someone is going around in a miner's mask, going around killing people, and it could possibly be Harry Warden, the original killer that was going around on a killing spree in the first place, and now they think that he's back. So, My Bloody Valentine, the original, is so much fun, very good kills, especially when you watch the director's cut version of the film. So, this is actually a very fun movie to watch. Next, at number 8, the original Black Christmas. This movie is definitely a classic movie done by Bob Clark before he ended up doing Porky's. This was his very first horror movie he decided to do. Where this movie is a very fun classic slasher horror movie where sorority girls are being terrorized by some unknown caller who keeps calling their house and leaving very funny noises. So, we're at Black Christmas, very fun classic slasher horror movie. Next, at number 7, is Sleepaway Camp. This movie is like one of the most recognizable slasher horror movies there is from the 80s, because this movie still remains as one of the greatest holy shit moments ever in horror movie history. Especially the way how the movie ends. So if you've seen the movie, you know why, but for the people who hasn't seen the movie, I'm not going to say anything because I don't want to spoil it for people who hasn't even seen this movie. And yes, I did get this signed by my good friend Felissa Rose, who I saw at the ScareCon event a couple years ago. So, Sleepaway Camp is a very fun, classic slasher horror movie. It's a whodunit kind of thing where you don't know who's going around killing off kids and counselors, because there was a boating accident, and then this girl Angela with her cousin Ricky decides to go to Camp Arawak, but then that's when there's a killer going around killing off camp counselors and the kids. So Sleepaway Camp, very fun classic slasher horror movie. Next is the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original. This is definitely a very classic slasher horror movie that is very familiar. That's like based on a true story from the events that's happened back when this was going on. So, this is like the 40th collector's anniversary edition, because the movie was done in '74, so it was like the 40th anniversary for whatever year that this movie ended up coming out, when it was the 40th anniversary. But this movie is so much fun to watch, where you got vacationers who end up coming across a house that is run by Leatherface and his cannibal family. So Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original, very fun classic slasher horror movie. So this is a movie that might have ended up making people say, no, I don't want to watch this, but this movie was just so much fun. Next is The Slumber Party Massacre. This movie is definitely a very fun slasher horror movie to watch. It's the very first of the Driller Killer, where Trish is having a slumber party with her high school friends, but someone uninvited has to show up with a power drill going around killing people. So the soundtrack to the film is pretty good. It's a little cheesy, but it's actually a very fun soundtrack to listen to. But Slumber Party Massacre, very fun Driller Killer for a classic slasher horror movie. So definitely very fun. Next, at number 4 is The Burning. This is another classic camp slasher horror movie. This is so much fun. The special effects by Tom Savini are just amazing. Good kills. Because this is like where the creepy caretaker named Cropsy, he gets burnt in a prank that went wrong. And he's in the hospital, and with the skin grafts and so many years, they tried their best to fix him up, but no good. So they decided to release him, and now he goes around killing anyone who gets in his way with a pair of gardening shears, because that's the weapon he uses. Because he always carried him with him all the time. So now Cropsy is like a ghost story to be told around the campfire when they find out that he's actually for real. So The Burning, very fun camp slasher horror movie. Definitely one of my favorites. Next, at number 3 is Friday the 13th, the original Friday the 13th. This movie is a very fun franchise, and it's a very recognizable horror movie of all time, where you got camp counselors are being terrorized by a killer, and we don't know who the killer is, because this is like a whodunit kind of thing, so we don't know what happens, because there was like so many accidents at this camp, and the locals called it Camp Crystal Lake Camp Blood, so we have no idea who's going around killing these camp counselors and don't want this camp to open again. So Friday the 13th, very fun classic slasher horror movie. It's another classic whodunit kind of thing. Next, at number 2 is Halloween, the original. This movie is definitely a very classic slasher horror movie, because Psycho was known as the granddaddy of horror films, and Halloween is known as the father of horror films, because this is a movie that started all the slasher genres. So Halloween is a very recognizable title, where you got Michael, who killed his sister when he was 6 years old on Halloween night because she wanted to stay home and make out with her boyfriend, so he ends up stabbing her. He's sent away in a mental hospital, but then 15 years later he escapes and returns to his hometown to prey on some babysitters. So the music by John Carpenter is so well done. Very good soundtrack. And this was Jamie Lee Curtis's first movie appearance that she's most recognizable for. And yes, I also got it signed by my good friend PJ Souls. And this movie is a very fun slasher horror movie. Finally, at number 1, the original Nightmare on Elm Street, done by Wes Craven. This is definitely one of my favorite slasher movies of all time, where you got Freddy Krueger, who was a child molester, a child murderer, gets burnt to death by a mob of angry parents by escaping justice, and he gets burned alive in his boiler room and terrorizes their kids in their nightmares. And once he kills you in your dreams, you're dead in the reality world. So, the music to the film is very good, and this movie is just so much fun to watch, and very recognizable in a very recognizable franchise in the horror slasher genre. So, original Nightmare on Elm Street, very fun movie to watch. Alright guys, so that's it for my Top 10 Tuesday. Let me know what you think, and like and subscribe to the channel. If there's any slasher movies that you think that should have been in this category, please let me know in the comments down below, and stay tuned for some more videos. Okay, so later.